Okay, let's talk about the template builder. I wanted to create this feature so that any data source can be embedded in between your query. So the first direct data source that is embeddable is a Webflow element. So let's just walk through building a template together. That'll be the best way of explaining this. So we have a template right here. We'll name it Webflow to React. Okay, and I'll give it a color of blue. Boom. So I want essentially to turn a Webflow data into a React component. So how can I do that? React. Let's just name our block. We don't need to name it, but let's just name it. So we'll say I want to take this data, and then we'll insert a query variable, right? By pulling up our command menu, which is command slash. Our pop-up pops up, and we have a variety of data types that we can embed, from images to files to JSON to range sliders to text to code. There's a ton. So right now we'll do a direct Webflow embed because that's a special data source. So we'll have this, and we'll just say this is just our code, right? So as you can see, it's a custom React embed inside of our web builder itself. So essentially what we'll need to do is now continue the query. So I want you to take this data, which is our code, and turn it into whatever language we want. So we'll just do a text area for this one, and we'll do, language, right? And boom, we're done with this thing. So as you can see here, these are just our different query variables that we've added. We can organize them, and then we can change the save location. There's a workspace block, so if we save it here, we'll add it to here, so we can always just add something. If we are using things often over and over again, we can just easily add it to the workspace. We can save it to our local files, and we can save it directly into our Webflow. So we'll save that here, and we'll go over here, and we'll have it. Boom. So another cool feature is you can save these templates as reusable blocks. So instead of having to write that all over and over again, I can just easily quickly add it by my blocks over here. So as you can see, this one's for BEM. I can rearrange it with there's a drag and drop provider. We can change the order of it. There's tons of different ways you can create any sort of template with any sort of data source. That's the all-encompassing takeaway from this is create a template that you want that's useful and utilize it by having whatever data source you would like. Thanks. Okay, let's talk about the fun part, the implementation details. So to create this template builder, I created a custom blob builder class, which is attached to the ref of the parent component's instance. So the entirety of the template building is essentially using the parent component's lifecycle. Within that lifecycle, we use the Bob class to manipulate a custom data structure that will allow the user essentially to read and write from. So that after the user is done with building their template, we employ a custom serializer that is able to take any data source and save it into whatever data and template that we want. So each data source has its own serialization strategy. So for images, we utilize base64 encoding. For Webflow data, we utilize a recursive parsing strategy to turn the data into a small interpretable language that the LLM can use for whatever objective that the user wants. As you can see here, this diagram essentially encompasses that idea where we have the blob context attached to the ref of the query editor, and each custom block has its own lifecycle with its own children that have their own lifecycle, all passing data up to the query editor. That's pretty much the overall encompassing aspects of it. I'd love to discuss this with you further if you want. Please let me know what you think. Thank you.